picture the scene, right? It's cold. You don't have any power. You gotta start a fire. You need to cut some wood you had stacked up that you just realized. Your axe is duller than a butter knife. It's time to sharpen it. Three things you need: gloves, file, axe. So there's multiple ways that you can sharpen your axe. You can use a grinder. You can set it in a vise. Me, I like to use a file. Files are different. Metal files are different. So if you look, you see the way the teeth are angled up. They only cut going this way. So pushing rather than pulling. So you push, lift up, push. So like I said, I do it. You can put it in a vise. Vices are nice. Vices help, keep it sturdy. But if you don't have a vise, this is how I always do it. I do have a vise, but this is just fun for me. Make it tighter for yourself. You can hear the difference whenever you're catching metal and whenever you're just sliding. That's sliding. That's catching. So that's what we're going to do. Of course, with a hand file, you're only going to be able to get it so sharp. If you had a grinder, you could get all these little pieces of chunks out, but honestly, like I said, I'm not trying to cut paper or meat. I guess you could. But if you're going to try to cut meat, say you're in a zombie apocalypse, you don't want to use the sharp part because it could get stuck. You use the blunt side for zombies. Remember that. It's a good skill to have too. It's actually pretty good. So now we can start chopping some wood. Alright, let's talk some safety when it comes to chopping wood. So first thing you want to do, regardless of anywhere, be aware of your surroundings. When I was in Boy Scouts, they taught you to hold the head of the axe like this, extend it, and draw a circle around you. That's essentially what you would call your blood circle. Basically, because when you go to swing behind you, if someone's not in that blood circle, the chances of you hitting them with your axe, or even with knives and stuff like that, is very slim. It could happen, of course, if they step into it further. But just be aware of your surroundings when you're cutting. I'm going to use gloves because you want to be aware of your hands too. Yes, I've got nice, big, calloused man hands, right? I still don't want blisters because it hurts. We all know it. You can see here, my wood is on the ground. If you could get a larger piece of wood that brings it up a little bit higher, it's going to do two things. It's going to stop you from swinging down so far with your back, but also you're going to, that edge of that axe that you just sharpened is not going to be going into the ground. It's going to be going into another piece of wood, so it keeps it a little bit sharper and not dull so quickly. But as you can see, I don't have a taller piece of wood to set that on, so we do what we got to do. I mean, if you're in the woods in a situation, you're not going to have everything you need. It's like baseball. You'll keep your eye on what you're swinging at. See how right here? Come here. You can see where my axe went into the ground. That's what I'm saying about that other piece of wood. That prevents it from happening. I don't want to put my wood on the concrete for that same reason. You want to talk about dulling your axe. But at least in the dirt, it's not going to be that bad. But look at that split right there. That's a good split. Let's do it again. This is where things get a little tricky when splitting wood. Standing half pieces up. Now I could burn this piece of wood like this, but when it comes to burning wood, you want efficiency. Again, made myself look dumb. Axe in the dirt, of course. That's why we learned how to sharpen. Now, let's stack some wood after we cut some wood. What if you have a small piece like this? What do you do? Good question. If you have a hatchet and a small sledge, maybe you don't have a small sledge. Remember what I said about hitting the zombies with a dull side? Get your hatchet. Cut you some small pieces. You use those to start the fire right at the beginning. This one has a knot in it. That's why it's not splitting that great. Now we can start a fire. Alright, when it comes to starting your fire, pay attention to your surroundings once again. Right now, it's the morning time. Morning time here in South Carolina, when it's cold, there's a lot of dew. It's a lot of moisture on the ground. So it's hard to find dry stuff to start a firewood, like leaves, things like that. Now, you could use stuff like pocket lint. I keep stuff in my truck a lot, toilet paper, things like that, in case of emergencies. But say you're at your house and you have a lot of pine trees around, you can find stuff that's called fat ladder. Fat ladder is basically a pine tree that has felled, and the sap inside basically crystallizes and is very, very flammable. I have some, and that's what I'm going to use to start this fire. This is fat ladder. I know, it just looks like a piece of wood, right? But you can see there's some red on it. If you smell them, they kind of smell like pine saw, which makes sense because it's from a pine tree. But it's the sap that crystallizes in this that makes it flammable. Again, this is not like a prepper situation, right? Where we're in the woods, we're stranded, a plane crashed, and you had to find stuff. This is in case we run out of power during the winter time and you need to know how to make a fire inside or outside so that you can cook or boil water, whatever you need to do. So I will have this, paper, and a lighter. So just to be clear, that's what we're doing right now. I know I have mentioned if we were in the woods, especially when it comes to the axe and stuff like that, but we're not in the woods. We're in, well, not suburbia, because I don't live in suburbia. We're in civilization. So I got something in my eye. So let's start this fire. Fat lighter is flammable in small increments. You don't need a whole bunch of it to start a fire. It smells so good. I'm gonna put paper down first. Okay, I'm gonna ball the paper up. You ball the paper up, it takes a little bit longer for it to burn. So put some paper down, or, I mean, everybody's gonna have paper in the house, I feel like. Old bills, stuff like that. But if you want to if you can find some dry leaves, or you have some dry leaves, that's good stuff too. Just make a little pile. And that, then you can take your fat lighter, put it on there, because that paper is going to set that fat lighter on fire. On top of that, we're going to get what's called kindling. Kindling is small sticks, branches that are dry, pop, and will burn relatively quickly. Put on there. I've got these dogwood limbs. They've got some leaves on them. That's going to help, but we'll start with that. And our lighter. Make sure your lighter works. There we go. Light as much of the paper as possible. It might not work the first time, so you might have to do it multiple times. Blow on it, keep the fire going. The fat lighter might be a little too dry, or might not be dry enough. So you just want to work in small increments. Okay, start small. It starts to get hot and hot. Keep putting some more kindling on there. Once you get a nice, good coal bed and some good fire going, then you can focus on putting in the other stuff, bigger branches. Like I said, it might not always work like you want it to straight off the bat. If you can light the fat lighter, then that definitely helps. I would rather kind of be closer.
What?
Instead of like going out to the house.
Yeah.
That way we don't have to be going so late.
I do have a 20 in my purse.
If you've got blocks or anything like that, you can use to kind of prop up sticks, and that's good too. Or you can use one of your larger logs to set there, because eventually they'll catch on fire as well, like this. Again, let it breathe. It'll eventually catch some of these bigger pieces on fire. You could throw some more kindling in there. I mean, more fat lighter in there if you want to. Catch that on fire. To keep it fueled, keep that fire going. Especially because some of that wood might be a little wet. So just keep feeding it, keep feeding it, keep feeding it until you have a good, nice roaring fire. See, it's smoking pretty good right now. When it smokes like this, most likely the flames have gone out. Go and give it a little. Making a fire is not super hard, but it's actually really surprising how many people don't know how to do it. And that's really the purpose of me making this video, is I want to share as many skills as possible that I have that could help other people out. Right now it's a beautiful day, sunny, cool, and people have a tendency, us especially, to get into a lull where it's like, oh, everything's good. And then when something happens, we're like, oh, we're scrambling. I don't want to scramble anymore. I want to consistently work towards being as prepared as possible for different situations. And I want that for y'all as well. We're still homesteading. You're still going to see our chickens. We got chicks in there. Other videos, you know, we're still doing the stuff. But I want to do more stuff with open air cooking, fires, especially with my other channel, the Primal Meatstead, where I do a lot of my recipes. But I want to do more stuff that's going to help people. That's one thing when I first started this, I didn't feel like I was helpful, because I didn't know a lot when it came to homesteading. I can't teach homesteading. There's certain things I can teach now because I've learned it, but things I can teach, sharpening an axe, things that I've learned over my life from my father and doing other stuff when it comes to camping, that's where I can help. And I hope you enjoy these videos that will be coming up about different skills that we can learn. I'm gonna do some canning. I love canning, and so that's gonna help you out too. So just, yeah, as much stuff as possible to help the masses and to start learning now instead of waiting for an emergency to figure it out. So, I mean, who doesn't like a good fire when it's cold anyway? So it's a skill that just, men, it'll make your wife happy. Make a nice cozy fire, sit down, drink some tea or some coffee, some bourbon, you know, just do your thing. This would be a good skill to have. And plus, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, we look pretty cool when we chop wood. I can feel my face when I'm with you. Fellas, remember that. Remember that. Just let me get this fire going nice and hot. I got one more thing I want to show you, but I just wanted to say thank you for following along, and I hope that these skills are going to help you. And kind of just explain like a little bit of a direction that we're going to go. Stick around a couple seconds, and I'll show you one last thing. Here. That's it. Good. Good. Ah, you see that fire? Dang it. Okay, well, I'm sorry I made y'all wait so long, because what I wanted to show you takes a little while because the fire has to burn. Now, what it is what comes from fire, and that is coals and ash, of course, but mainly hot coals. So if there's ever a time when you're outside making a fire, you can find these cool grates or Dutch ovens, cast iron Dutch ovens, because when you make a fire, it's going to burn down. You have hot coals. You take your shovel, you scoop those hot coals underneath your grate. This is hot because it's actually been sitting there for a while. And you can cook hamburgers, hot dogs, whatever you need to on here. You can set your Dutch oven, even pots and pans that boil water. Dutch ovens usually go in the hot coals. That's how they work. They're kind of like an oven, hence the name. But that is the last thing I wanted to show you. So I greatly appreciate y'all hanging out with me this morning. It's been a wonderful morning. I love a good fire. When it's chilly outside, when it starts to get this weather, hoodie weather I like to call it, making a fire is beautiful. We'll have fires in the evening time. Kids come in here. We'll just sit around and have great conversations. No phones, iPads, TVs going. Great conversations have been, couldn't speak, happen around great fires. Appreciate y'all.